Hello and welcome to Blythe Business News. For this edition, I'm joined by Gavin Ferrar, who is Chief Financial Officer of Central Asian Metals PLC. Central Asian Metals, almost universally known by its ticker on AIM of CAML or CAML, listed on the AIM market with a market capitalisation of £455 million. The company is well known for returning value to shareholders through its operations at the Kunrad copper plant in Kazakhstan, and also its lead zinc underground mine, Sasa, in North Macedonia. The company's just announced its full year results for 2022. Gavin, can you please talk us through the highlights of the year?
Thanks, Tim. It's lovely to be with you today. Thank you very much. I think we've come off the back of a very good year. Thank you. We managed to reduce our long-term injury frequency rate, which is a key metric in terms of measuring our health and safety, from 1.69 to 0.83. We like starting with that because we like emphasizing the health and safety aspects of our business as well. And that was in light of record copper production at Kunrad of 14,254 tons and inline zinc and lead production of 21,473 and 27,354 tons respectively. That production drove revenues of 232.2 million tons, which is slightly off on last year, mainly because of lower copper and lead prices. Zinc actually was up a little bit. And cost of sales beneath that was only 8% up, given quite a challenging inflationary environment that we were operating in, particularly in the second half of the year, where we saw electricity costs at Sasa impacting that to the tune of around $5.5 million. Plus also we increased pay at both sites to combat inflationary pressures that our staff was feeling there. EBITDA for the year was $131.6 million, around $10 million lower than the previous year, but still at a very good margin of 57%. That drove free cash flow generation of $89.7 million. And our shareholders, Tim, will understand that that's the key metric upon which we calculate the dividend. The dividend we calculate at 30 to 50% of that free cash flow number. And we're very pleased to announce a final dividend of 10p that takes us into the upper end of that payout ratio at 47%.
So there's CAML doing what it does best, producing well, recording high EBITDA, good cash generation, and as you say, continuing that trend of returning value to shareholders, not least through the dividend. Let me take you a little bit back, though, to some of the operational points. And let's start, please, with Sasa, the underground mine in Macedonia. I think regular viewers will know that you've been making progress on the cut and fill project, the new mining approach, the cut and fill. Give us an update on that, but also you've got the commissioning of the paste backfill plant coming up later this year. Just recap on how important these projects are to the entirety of CAML and how it's going to positively impact the Sasa mine.
That's right, Tim. Thank you. The primary reason for changing our mining method from the current sublevel caving is driven by health and safety. Now, sublevel caving sort of exposes our workers to what we call unsupported ground from time to time, and that is inherently much more dangerous than having supported ground above your head. So the cut and fill will obviate the necessity for anybody to go into an area of the mine that is unsupported. So we think that's very important. Secondly, what that does with cut and fill is to maximize the resource extraction. So we're going to be taking out a lot more of the ore body than we would have with sublevel cave. Sublevel cave requires us to leave pillars behind to support the mine itself, whereas the paste backfill that we'll put into the mine forms part of that support network underground. So we'll be able to extract, as I said, a lot more of the ore body and therefore extend the life of mine. Putting paste backfill underground, a lot of that is made up of tailings. So this method allows for much more responsible tailings management. In addition to the paste backfill, we're also building what's called a dry stack tailings landform. So that's another element to the project you didn't mention earlier. There's a third element to it, and that is placing our tailings on surface in the form of a dry cake rather than the wet slurry tailings that we currently employ. Talking of wet slurry tailings, going to paste backfill plus also dry stack means that we no longer need any more additional surface tailings, wet tailings facilities. We're currently on the mine's fourth wet tailings facility called TSF4, obviously, and that cost us $16 million to construct that facility. So if we would need 2 to 3 of those towards the end of the life of mine, you're effectively saving that additional capex of $16 million in today's money each time. So there's actually an economic savings as well. Water has obviously become a much more sensitive topic around the world, and particularly with mining projects. We are looking to minimize the surface abstraction of water, and by using dry stack tailings and paste backfill, we'll be recycling a lot of the water that the mine uses, including managing all of the water that's coming out from the underground workings as well. And last but not least, there's no reason to make any kind of relocations of dwellings, purchase of land, all that sort of thing, if we did extend the surface footprint of the mine. Everything that we talked about now, dry stack tailings, paste backfill plant, is all within the existing footprint of the mine itself. So no extension of that footprint, and therefore impact on not only the environment, but also on the local communities. So we think it's quite an important kind of future-proofing, really, of Sasa. We're employing much more modern tailings emplacement techniques that are much more environmentally friendly in terms of footprint, as I said, and water management as well.
Okay. Thanks for that update on Sasa. Let's just turn our attention now to Kounrad, because you've got another capital project underway at Kounrad, which is the construction of a solar farm. So when's that expected to go online? When's commissioning? Give us an update there, please.
Well, the solar farm itself is actually, in comparison to the Sasa capital expenditure, quite minor expenditure. I think we're going to spend just a shade under $5 million there on that little project. But it's equally important, because what it allows us to do is reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by around 10% versus a 2020 base. Now, if you recall, we're basing all of our GHG and net zero targets off of a 2020 base, with our objective of getting to 50% reduction by 2030. This is a key part of that. It'll provide around 16 to 18% of the power requirement at Kounrad. It's a fairly small facility at 4.77 megawatts. And that was just the ideal size for us to build before we had to add in the complexities of joining into the national grid and using sort of prescribed circuitry and various other things there. But to your point about construction, we've actually started construction. The earthworks are underway. We've cleared the ground, and we've made all the orders of all the equipment. So we're looking to actually install the final PV plates in H2 this year, and commission very shortly thereafter. So that should be online by the end of the year. Okay.
Well, as you said at the start, you're looking back on a very, very good 2022. Let's look to the future a little bit. It's last year, I think, was the 5th anniversary of the acquisition of the Sasa lead zinc mine. And, regular commentators looking at CAML are expecting this next acquisition. So can shareholders expect further growth through more acquisitions? I mean, what's the status of the M&A plan?
Well, look, it has been a while since we put the Sasa deal away, and we did take a long time in getting there. Probably, I think we closed that deal in November 2017 after starting production at Sasa in April 2012. So, good 5-year plan. So we are due another one, I suppose is what you say. But, we are cautious about these things, because we want to ensure that anything we do is going to be accretive for our shareholders. What we have done is, post the pandemic, is actually ramped up the efforts. Now, clearly, it was very difficult to do any BD. Site visits were off limits during the pandemic, but we're back up to sort of full-scale travel around the whole operation, actually. So what we do is, we've sort of formalized the BD effort a little bit, but we're reviewing a lot of projects, we're signing a lot of NDAs. We're constantly out there looking for something that's going to fit both of our cost and production targets as well. But I think the most interesting thing here is that with our clean balance sheet, having repaid all of the debt last year, we now found ourselves in a unique position compared to some of the competition we would have faced potentially in the past, whereby we have the ability to raise capital, we can raise cash a lot easier in the form of debt. We could, if necessary, on a transformative transaction, mimic what we did with Sasa, where we effectively played across the whole capital structure and had cash that was financed by a debt piece plus an equity raise as well, which gives our shareholders a say in what we're going to do. But as I said, the key thing here is that everything we look at has got to be accretive. And what we'd love to do is do something that is meaningful in terms of production and has a cost base such that we can continue to pay the dividends that we've become well known for.
So what you're saying is, let's wait and see, and I guess that's fair enough. But let's just look.
You've always got to be a little bit coy in these positions, Tim. I mean, all I can say is, I can assure our shareholders, it's not through lack of effort and lack of trying. We are out there, shaking trees and looking really hard at things. But at the same time, we've got to be cautiously bold, as I said, one of our shareholders put it.
Cautiously bold. I like that. Let's just look, therefore, at the more immediate short term. Shareholders like news flow. What should we be looking at? What types of things coming out of Central Asia Metals in the next few months?
Well, the next few months, or next 12 months, is probably a better way to look at it. I think we've got some fairly well-defined targets just in terms of completing these capital projects. We've got, as I said earlier, this paste backfill plant, which is, quite advanced in terms of construction. We'll look to wet commission that over the next few months and put that into production by the end of the year. That also means a transition into that paste backfill mining, which is the first year, I suppose, that we're going to be implementing that new mining technique and then phasing it in over the next 4 years as we slowly phase out sublevel caving. The central decline is part of the project we didn't discuss earlier, and that is a new decline access into the lower depths of the ore body, but it also gives us access into newer ore bodies, or newer ore bodies that are known but haven't been explored properly. So there's two elements there. One is it's going to make moving material in and out of the mine a lot easier and a lot more efficient and a lot cheaper, and also allow us access to drill platforms to go into things like Kozja Reka and Golema Reka, which are satellite ore bodies to the current Svinja Reka ore body, which will hopefully produce some exploration results that are positive as well. And then last but not least, as we discussed just now, we hope to make some progress on BD. I say that at the beginning of every year. Kiss a lot of frogs, and hopefully one of them will turn into a prince one day.
Well, you must come back and tell us when you find the frog that works out for you. Thanks for joining us, Gavin. That was Gavin Ferrar, Chief Financial Officer of Central Asia Metals PLC, updating us on the full year results, the production, the finances, and the dividend that the company produced for the year 2022. That's it for this edition of Blythe Ray Business News. Thanks for watching.